You're mid-sentence. They cut you off. Not loudly, not even rudely, just easily. Like your voice was the easiest thing in the room to step on. You stop. You let them keep going. You even give that small nod, that fake "it's fine" nod. And right there, something shifts. Not just in them, in the room. Because people notice who gets interrupted, and they notice who fights for the floor, and who gives it away. That's the part most people miss. You think you stayed calm. You think you looked mature. You think letting it slide made you look unbothered. But to everyone watching, it felt different. It felt easy. And once it feels easy, it rarely happens just once. Next time, they jump in faster. They don't wait for your sentence to land. They don't check your face. They don't wonder if you are finished. Not because last time taught them something. Your voice can be moved. Maybe it happens in a meeting. You finally start making your point, and someone cuts across you with, yeah, exactly. Then says a different version of what you were about to say. A couple of people turn toward them. Not you. Now your chest tightens. You feel that split-second pressure to either jump back in or disappear gracefully. So you choose the polite version. You go quiet. You smile a little. You tell yourself you'll come back in later. But later never feels clean. The flow is gone. The moment is gone. And now getting your place back feels heavier than keeping it would have. That is how conversational dismissal starts. Not with one huge insult, with one small interruption that costs them nothing. And the more it costs them nothing, the more your presence starts shrinking in real time. And this is where most people lose the room, not when they get interrupted, when they try to recover too softly. You lean back in with a half smile. You say, "Sorry, just to finish my point." Or, "Yeah, basically what I was saying was..." And the tone is already wrong, because now it sounds like you are asking for a little space inside your own sentence. You can feel it. Your voice gets thinner. You start talking faster. You trim your point down like you need to earn the right to finish it. And people feel that immediately. Picture the moment. You are halfway through explaining something. Someone cuts in. You stop for a second. Then you jump back in politely, trying not to make it awkward. But while you are speaking, they are still moving, still shuffling papers, eyes still looking at someone else, still acting like the floor belongs to whoever grabs it hardest. That's the mistake. You are still talking, but your position is already defensive. Now your point is no longer landing as a point. It lands like a recovery attempt. And once that happens, people stop hearing the content. They start reading the energy. Not, "This person has something important to say." More like, "This person can be moved." That is the first visible loss. Not silence. Reduced weight. You did not need to fight. You did not need a speech. The shift is smaller than that. When they cut in, do not restart like a guest in your own sentence. Hold your place. Come back in clean. One line. "Let me finish." Then stop. No smile to soften it. No extra explanation. No apology hanging off the end. There's just enough resistance to make interruption cost something. And this is why it keeps happening. Because once you let one interruption pass, people stop treating it like an exception. It becomes your lane. At first, it is one person. Then it is the same kind of moment with different faces. A friend cuts across you at dinner. You start a story. They jump in with theirs. You laugh it off. At work, you begin answering a question. Someone else starts talking over you. You pause again. They keep going. On a call, you finally find your opening. Then somebody steps right on it, and you tell yourself, "I don't want to make this weird." But the pattern is already getting read, not just by the person interrupting you, by everyone else. They start feeling that your sentences are optional. That's the hidden damage. No one announces it. No one says, we don't need to wait for him. They just start doing it, more casually, more quickly, with less hesitation. And the worst part is, you start helping them. You begin shortening your points before anyone cuts in. You rush the first few words. You speak like someone bracing for impact. People feel that too. Now the interruption does not even need to happen first. Your body is already expecting dismissal, so your presence enters the room more subtly. That is how one moment becomes a social pattern. Not because everyone is cruel, because humans adapt fast to what meets no resistance. This is the shift. Stop treating interruption like a random personality issue. Read it as live training. Every time you let it pass cleanly, you are teaching the room. Your words can be entered, redirected, and replaced. This is the part people feel, but rarely name. Interruption is not just about sound, it is about rank. The second someone talks over you and you do nothing, other people start organizing the room around that. You see it in small ways. You make a point. They cut in. Then someone across the table answers them instead of you. Not because your point was bad, because the room already shifted its attention to the person who acted like they had the stronger claim. That is how social reading works. Fast, quiet, brutal. Maybe it is a meeting. You bring up an idea. Someone jumps in halfway, repeats the cleaner version, and suddenly, heads start nodding at them. Nobody says they stole it. Nobody says you got pushed aside. But you feel it in your body. Your jaw locks. Your chest gets hot. And now you have two bad options. Or fight for credit and risk looking reactive. Or stay quiet and watch your position disappear in real time. That is why this hurts more than people admit. It is not just about being interrupted. It is being socially downgraded while everyone pretends nothing happened. And once that image forms, people start handling you differently. They speak over your transitions. They summarize your point for you. They stop waiting that extra second that respect usually gives. That is the consequence. People do not just hear words. They read who is allowed to finish them. So when the interruption happens, your correction has to be visible enough for the room to register it. Not dramatic, just clear. I wasn't finished. Then continue. Because sometimes you are not only speaking to them, you are teaching the whole room how your voice gets treated. But it gets more expensive when the moment actually matters. Not small talk, not a casual dinner, a room where position sticks, a client call, a team meeting, a moment where people are deciding, without saying it, whose voice carries weight here. You start speaking. You finally get to the point. Then someone cuts in again. This time, the room does not even react. That is when you feel the real pressure. Because now it is not just an interruption. It is a test. Will you hold your space under tension? Or will you hand it over again to keep things smooth? Most people panic right there. Not outwardly. Internally. Their breathing changes. They start calculating. If I stop them, will I look difficult? If I let it go, can I get back in later? If I push now, will the room turn on me? And while that little storm is happening, the moment is already moving without you. That is the cost. High-stakes dismissal rarely looks dramatic. It looks efficient. They keep talking. The meeting keeps flowing. And your silence gets folded into the rhythm like you never had the floor in the first place. That is where presence starts collapsing. Not because you had nothing to say, because under pressure, you treated your place like something negotiable. This is the part people miss. The more important the room, the less you can afford delayed correction. Not angry, not long, not defensive, just immediate. Hold on. Let me finish this. Then finish it calmly. Because when the stakes rise, people are not only listening to your words, they are watching whether you protect them. And after the conversation ends, it usually gets worse. Because now, the room is gone. But the moment is still in you. You replay it on the drive home, in the shower, in bed, while doing something else. You hear the exact second they stepped on your sentence. You hear your own little laugh after it. That polite laugh. The one that says, "I noticed it, but I'm going to help you get away with it." That's the part that stings. Not just that they talked over you, that you joined them. You start arguing with yourself after the fact. I should have said something. Why did I go quiet again? Why do I always freeze in that moment and get clear in 5 minutes? Now the damage is internal. Because interruption does not just take your words. It makes you doubt your timing, your tone, your right to take up space at all. So the next time you speak, some part of you is already bracing. You soften your entry. You overexplain the first sentence. You try to sound extra reasonable before anyone even pushes back. That is how dismissal starts living inside your body. Before they interrupt you, you are already making yourself easier to interrupt. That's the hidden loss. The pattern leaves the room, then follows you into the next one. This is where the Stoic move gets quieter. Do not spend the whole night rewriting the scene. Name it clean. They crossed the line. I let it pass. Next time, I won't. That line matters. Because the moment you stop turning it into shame, you can finally turn it into a correction. And this is where the change starts before they even cut you off. Because most people do not only lose the floor in the interruption, they lose it earlier, in the way they enter, in the way they start. In the way their first sentence already sounds ready to make room. That is the identity that has to go. You stop walking into conversations hoping people will respect your timing. You bring timing with you. You finish the first sentence clean. You do not rush the opening. You do not trail off at the end like the room gets to decide whether your point continues. That changes the feel fast. Now, when someone leans in too early, you feel it. But you do not scramble. You do not smile. You do not speed up. You do not make yourself easier to manage. You stay at the same pace. Because the real shift is not, how do I stop this person? It is, why was I entering like my sentence was negotiable in the first place? Once that changes, the boundary stops being something you invent under pressure. It is already there. In your tone, in your timing. In the fact that your voice no longer sounds like it is asking to be allowed to finish. That is when the interruption stops feeling personal. It becomes simple. They arrive early. You do not yield early. And the room starts feeling that this voice has edges. Now it has to become visible. Not in your head, in the moment. Because the room does not learn from what you meant to do. It learns from what you actually do when the line gets crossed again. And it will get crossed again. That is the test. You are speaking. They jump in early. Same move. Same little slide into your sentence like your ending does not matter. But this time, you do not give them the easy handoff. You do not stop and smile. You do not shrink your point and try to re-enter later. You hold eye contact. You lift one hand just slightly. And you say, "Hang on," or "Let me finish." Then you keep going. That is it. No speech about respect. No irritated tone. No long explanation about how you always get interrupted. Just a correction. Then continuation. That is what makes it strong. You are not asking them to understand your feelings. You are showing them the rule in real time. And people feel that immediately. The interrupter pulls back. The room resets. Even the silence changes. Because now your words have a frame around them. Now there is a cost, small, but real. That is all it takes. Most verbal boundaries do not need force. They need clarity at the exact second the line is crossed. And once you do that a few times, something starts disappearing. Not your kindness, not your calm, the easiness, the casual assumption that your sentence can be stepped on without consequence. That is when your presence comes back. Not louder, stronger. People do not keep talking over you because they forgot your value. They keep doing it because your silence made the interruption cheap. That is the hard truth. You do not get presence by hoping people will give you room. You get it by making your place in the conversation real, calmly, immediately, without apology. The moment they learn they cannot step on your sentence for free, the whole room changes, and so do you.